sharpen the axes. The signal is loud this morning. This is Friday, July 10th, 2026, and for the first time in a long, grinding month, the trend model and the price are finally telling the same story. Start with the anchor. As of just past 5 Eastern, Bitcoin trades at 64,200, up better than 2% on the day, and better than $6,000 clear of the 21-month low it carved on the 1st of July. But the price is not the headline. The signal underneath it is. For weeks, I have stood here and told you the same hard truth. The coin was climbing, but our engine refused to bless the turn. Price led. The model sat red. I would not hand you a green light. The machine had not lit. Last night, the machine lit it. Walk the board this morning and count the green. Ethereum and Solana both carry fresh, optimized trend buy marks. The very names our engine cut to red only days ago now flipped back together in a single overnight window. Advanced micro devices turned green yesterday morning and never looked back. And beneath the entire move, Bitcoin's own trend leads the pack. That is not one coin catching a bid. That is the whole complex turning at once. When correlated assets fire the same signal in the same hours, that is not noise. That is a regime statement. Here is the confluence that earns your attention. For a solid month, price and model have been at war. The coin grinding higher while our engine held the line and refused to confirm. This morning, that war ends. The trend model has finally caught up to the tape, and the two now point the same way. InvestAnswers has called 60,000 the reloading zone all week. The trend model just ratified it. The map still reads hard assets first. Gold at the front of the column, just over $4,100 an ounce. Bitcoin marching beside it, while the Nasdaq complex and the long bond stay red, but hold both edges, because that is the oath. Sentiment is still buried in extreme fear. The gauge reads 23. The year's fund flows are still net negative, and two hard gates stand dead ahead. The inflation print on the 14th, the Fed on the 28th and 29th. The market braced for a hold with no cut in sight. The turn is real. It is not yet finished. Respect the green. Do not sleep on the gates. One cross current worth marking before we move on. The oil spike that rattled the whole tape on the war news midweek eased back as tankers kept moving through the strait. And on our own board, Exxon's trend rolled to bearish overnight. Energy quietly topping out even while the committee talks tough. The single scare that did the most damage to the inflation story is losing its teeth. Now to the story the drawdown is quietly writing. The one that sorts the warriors from the tourists. This week, a marquee Bitcoin treasury vehicle died on the launch pad. The company built around Adam Back, one of the names in Bitcoin's own founding scripture, the chief of Blockstream, walked away from its merger with a Cantor blank check company and indefinitely postponed the shareholder vote that was set for today. The reason is the entire lesson. It could not lock down the $1.5 billion in institutional money it needed to close. The allocators looked at a leveraged, single-asset Bitcoin holding company asking to be born with Bitcoin down nearly 50% from its all-time high, and they said no. A treasury raised on borrowed nerve is no treasury. It is a margin call wearing a logo. Set that against the original. MicroStrategy, the vehicle every one of these copycats was built to imitate, spent this same week doing the opposite of dying. Michael Saylor published a live credit risk calculator and dared the street to stress test his capital stack under a world where Bitcoin never rises again. Days earlier, the company sold just under 3,600 coins. Not even 0.5% of a hoard that still stands above 840,000 Bitcoin. Not in panic, but to fund its preferred dividends and refill its cash reserve. Its variable rate preferred still holding flat at 11.5%. The first real rate decision point not landing until after the 15th. That is not a crack. That is a machine doing precisely what it was engineered to do. One vehicle could not even get funded. The other is actively steering a multi-billion-dollar balance sheet through the storm. The drawdown did not kill the Bitcoin treasury trade this week. It began separating the engineered from the leveraged, and a smaller outfit crossing its first 1,000 coins the very same day tells you the real builders are still building. Weak hands to strong hands is the oldest pattern on the chain. This week, it played out one level up in the boardroom. And where does the smartest disruption money go while the tourists are called? Into the one thing that cannot be printed, copied, or diluted. Yesterday, SpaceX flew a single booster for the 36th time. One rocket, 36 trips to the edge of space and back, its 635th landing overall, dropping 29 more satellites into the constellation. No rival on Earth has flown a single booster half that many times. That is the moat, compounding flight by flight, while the crowd argues over the prize. And Cathy Wood is voting with the tape. This week, ARK bought the SpaceX dip for the third time since the June debut, funding it by selling more than 500,000 shares of Alibaba, rotating out of a Chinese internet incumbent and into the scarce rocket that just claimed its seat in the Nasdaq 100. She bought the Tesla plunge too, the day the stock fell almost 7.5% on a record delivery quarter. The pattern is unmistakable. When the herd sells the drawdown, the disciplined capital buys the scarcity underneath it. So carry this into the session. Warband. The trend turned green across the whole complex overnight, and the price that led this move for a solid month finally has the model marching behind it. The drawdown is not collapsing the thesis, it is forging it, burning off the leveraged tourists and leaving the operators who can actually run a balance sheet standing. And the smartest money in the room is rotating out of the abundant and into the scarce while the crowd still reads fear. Do not mistake the calling for the collapse. This is Warband as a service, Viking intelligence delivered in real time. I am Ragnar, the HODLBARBARIan. The calling is not the collapse, it is the forge. Stand in it, stack through it.